streaming. Wait for it to boot up. There we go. Alrighty. And we're live. So, welcome back to Kingless Chronicle. Last time, the party got into the College of Asterium, dealt with an oozy dragon of some sort, and went to a bordello and had a great time. You know, all sorts of things happened last time. And we left off with them in the college, thinking about what they wanted to study or look into. And that's where we're going to segue into. So, last time Baskerville got, I believe, a decent role to look into some subjects that he wanted to look into. He will begin looking into those now, but he'll be preoccupied for a good deal of the session reading them. If you wish to have Baskerville tag along, you'll have to go and get him for that. He's a little preoccupied at the moment. Mm-hmm. Now, additionally, Delon got a nat 20 to find some information for the King's Glaive and certain other So Delon, I'm going to start with you at the moment. What sort of information do you want to look into at the moment?
History and culture, dear boy.
Excellent, excellent. So, with your nat 20, what sort of specific moments in history or culture are you looking into?
Well, in order to find the King's Glaive, one must look to the source. There have been a history of relationships between each nation and empire. The knight needs to know, and a good knight should know, if one is to roam around now that he's an adventurer. In order to understand why the King's Glaive is important, I must understand the history of the King's Glaive and all the different components that each nation has had in a hand in it, assuredly. In addition, it is important to understand the culture in which you find yourselves. So it is important and nay necessary that I must find additional books on each nation, on their cultures, response, and respects, as each will have differing views, and I must do my best is not to ruffle any feathers when I come into different nations. Lastly, and appropriately, if I'm to understand the cultures in which, I must understand that the people within it. So, in doing so, since I am in an arcane-like city, it is best that I understand the elves, in Asterium, the dwarves, and of course, the humans, both noble and alike. And magic, of course, as this will be one of the few opportunities that I can study magics outside of Asterium.
Excellent, excellent. So, would you like to start with the elves and a little bit of reading up on some knowledge of elves?
Indubitably.
Alrighty. So, elven culture and society is, depending on the kind of elf that you're having, very different. High elves are seen as hoity-toity, but they also tend to be living in forests for the most part. High elves live among human culture in some ways or another, usually earning their way there through their unbelievably long lifespans, taking hundreds of years to climb the social ladder and then refusing to leave until either forced or they die. High elves are known for their attrition, their very wise minds, as well as their extreme foresight. Their ability to plan something years in advance that nobody else would see coming is something that many societies fear and loathe. Wood elves are seen as the bulk of elvish society. One could make the argument that wood elves and high elves are no different by blood or genetics at all, but you would also be slightly wrong, as they do have a very distinctive appearance coming from their bloodline. But most high elves live within the woodlands, as is their culture, But the Wood Elves all essentially live in tune with nature to some degree. They find themselves, for the most part, getting extremely uncomfortable and a little ill feeling for spending prolonged moments away from too much nature. Even a little nature is fine, but if there's a city that's completely made of stone, with very few greenery or shrubberies inside, they can find themselves feeling a little queasy. Wood Elf culture is very open and free. They all fulfill a role for their city or town or group, and as long as everybody fills their role, they all function rather equally, for the most part. Many things are allowed, many things are tolerated. Wood Elves going off into human society and coming back with a beautiful human is quite common, or some other beautiful race that they fancy is quite common. Let's see. Most elves are more magically attuned to some capacity than most other races. It is believed to come from their close ties to the nature around them.
Hmm. Anything else?
That is basically everything for Elvish society that you can get from this text here. Very little things will offend elves except overuse of natural resources or a disregard for their customs or cultures or other natural occurrences. There's said to be no better way to offend an elf than by going to an apple tree and taking every single apple on the tree and then leaving. You didn't even leave an apple for a deer or something similar.
See.
You have multiple other books in front of you. What else would you like to look into?
I think Arcana is the best method. Understanding the history of at least magics. Given very few opportunities to do so, it would be best that Delon do so now.
Alright. So, magic is a very, very archaic thing. There's multiple studies on it, multiple people trying to discover or figure out what sort of things magic originates from, but nobody's truly ever grasped the full concept of it. Similar to dragons, very few people know where they come from, and very few people have multiple theories. Same with magic. Nobody truly knows where magic comes from, or what its source is, but everybody has theories. Magic has existed for as long as anything else has existed, and people who can use magic are very much the same. People being able to use magic has always been the way of it. And everybody seems to have some form of a latent magical capability to some degree, whether they can just simply feel magic in an area or cast a simple produce flame at some point if they spent their whole life doing it. Who knows? But certain people and individuals have a far higher affinity for magic than others, and most people have an affinity with one class of magic more than any other as well. But magic is something that has to be trained in, both to control and for your own and everyone else's safety. The College of Asterium was founded multiple centuries ago for the studying and betterment of magic, as well as for a place for people to practice magic without harming the surrounding areas. As random people trying on their own to use magic have had consequences in the past.
Hmm.
Over the years, King's Landing eventually officiated the college as the premier source place to learn and train in magic, as well as the only place one can go to obtain a magical license. Asterium has since capitalized on that by changing their society into one that revolves around said college.
Oh.
But there are multiple different classes of magic, be it necromancy, conjuration, abjuration, the like, all sorts of classes of magic. And even in Asterium, the book you're reading shows you that there's classes for learning how to summon creatures. There's potion making classes, there's manipulation classes, there's a special class that teaches necromancy, and the do's and don'ts therein. And other things similar. They practice all kinds of magic here. There seems to be no magic that's completely off limits.
If that's all in this book, then I think the next one would be at least looking at a history, nations and dragons, and then the last being King's Glaive.
Alright. So, the Nations and Dragons book is filled with information regarding multiple of the nations and how their politics have gone. King's Landing has almost always been the focal point for the entire nations, as they are the king of every other region, and they are appointed by the divine gods, using the process of the King's Glaive itself, which is mentioned in another book. However, typically speaking, Gloucester, the region of Gloucester, has almost always been staunch allies of the king, or the kingdom in some way. They seem to have a tradition of aligning themselves with the current kings, and usually being front and center in doing so. So much so that the future lords of Gloucester are brought up and reared with future potential kings of King's Landing, so that they become as thick as thieves when they eventually assume their positions, more or less. Renaud has a very interesting history with the nations as a whole. The lands of Renaud are consistently seen as the premier source in bulk of armies for conquest and wars against dragons. The King's Landing having used their services and their armies throughout many points of history. Renaud also has a interesting history of consistently waging war against its own neighbors or being an ambitious region, but usually backing off when the king says so. As such, they have a history of gaining lands, losing lands, gaining lands, and then having to give back lands and other things. For the most part, Renaud as a country, while extremely ambitious in its own and how they handle things, has almost always been very honest, forthright, and rather warlike in their mannerisms. There they are in the land regions of Renaud. Honesty is true. There is no need for the weakness of deception, and speaking your mind is quite common. As is being aware that you must actually be able to back up what you claim. So, if you insulted somebody in Renaud by speaking your mind, and they would have every right to attack you for it. And you would have every right to defend yourself back, essentially. And you would be expected to do so, essentially. Let's see. Asterium is an interesting region that for many years was reigned by humans and was not always so magically focused or as lavish as it is now. A few centuries ago, the current Lord of Asterium became king, Lord of Asterium, and has been the Lord ever since, ruling and consistently changing his country in different ways. Asterium was once a place of sort of a shipping, sailing, fishing town. It used to have a big center on its ports, and while it still does, they have now completely changed their specialization to magical influences, and being the premier source of any and all magic in the regions. Even the High Wizard Iolio graduated from the College of Magic. He's one of their best, quote-unquote, best students. Let's see. Nebulum is an interesting region. Nebulum is a region that was not always as shady or as underbelly as it currently is. It has a horrible reputation now, and it's almost always had a reputation of some sort, be it being the last country to have the only country that is the reason why slavers and slavery still exist overall, as well as the only country, typically speaking, holding on to certain old traditions. They're also the only country to have outside of Asterium, to have a very close connection with their dragon, and they were one of the first to do so, getting very comfortable with their red dragon, and actually welcoming him, and at one time, a black dragon into their midst with rather open arms. Sort of a you protect us and we will continue to give you tribute sort of thing. Eventually, the Black Dragon was cast out, finding his own way for reasons that aren't specified, and the Red Dragon reigns supreme on his volcano, known as Mount Pyrium, or in some regions Pyrium due to dialect. However, Nebulum, it seems to have it's had a problem of multiple generations of increasing shadiness in their dealings and the looseness of their laws in how they do things has had a gradually ramping up level of the crime that happens in Nebulum. Essentially in Nebulum, as long as you aren't caught, it's legal. Keep to yourself and don't cause a scene, and it's legal. And as such, Nebulum has almost always stuck by these rules, and for multiple generations, they have been allowed to do such. The reason why they've been allowed to have such autonomy in their region is due to the fact that they have sought protection with their red dragon. No country really wanting to try to step foot in their soil and stop them due to such a thing, or risk the wrath of a red dragon. Even the king has allowed Nebulums as as its own things for multiple generations, seemingly for the fact that it would be too much of a sunken cost to fix now. So wait for Nebulum to overstep its bounds, and then the king's authority would allow him to change it as he sees fit. Nebulum seems to know this, and their lords have been very careful about not overstepping bounds, but testing waters for generations.
I suppose then finally the King's Glaive. Sorry, this is taking so long.
You're good. I mean, you're reading like multiple books. It's fine. You got a nat 20 for it. Let's see. So the King's Glaive, this book is a lot shorter, and there's a lot more. There's actually multiple books on the subject. The King's Glaive is known to be a magical item, supposedly crafted by the divine themselves, that nobody is actually sure what it looks like, except the kings. There's so many different stories on it that some people just assume they're all true. One book actually going into detail to say that they think that the King's Glaive is actually a magical changing item that changes itself for the lord, for the king that uses it, essentially. That seems to be a rather an old theory that's becoming more popular as of late. However, very little is known about it, except that there's been so many historical stories of it, as well as rumors of it appearing mostly in grand battles, always on the king, or always appearing in places where something drastic or extremely powerful might occur. World-changing events of sorts. Overall, the King's Glaive is said to be the sole thing that can crown new kings, as without it the divines will never recognize your claim to the throne. However, it is also mentioned that the divines will never make another King's Glaive. The King's Glaive cannot be destroyed nor harmed except by divinity, but it will also never be recreated, as the ability for multiple kings to be crowned in the same region would be disastrous. The last known site of the King's Glaive was in one of the Dragon Wars about 100 or 200 years ago, where it was supposedly wielded by a former king as a literal glaive against a mighty brown dragon in the depths of the earth. The battle was so mighty that it is said that it tore up the literal ground, causing new mountains to arise and the earth to change.
All right then.
Cool beans. So with that information gathered, I will segue over to Gildas. Gildas, what are you up to?
Yeah. Well, since last time, I went through like the books I was looking for. I found out that what I was looking for literally had a course about it. I was thinking first, I would usually go back and look at what the available courses are, the whole college. See if there's anything I can subscribe to, register. Could be interesting.
Alrighty. So, as you look around the college, you can find that there is a multitude of classes. There's classes in every single magical type under the sun. There's also classes for more niche type of things, like creating magical creatures or the splicing of creatures, as well as for instance the how to make and control constructs. There's also things like how to create a companion item, or something that is magically focused that does a very simple task at your beck and call, essentially.
Yeah, like a room and all, yeah.
Yeah. There's also classes on potion making, as well as there is a class that is currently in session on how to create temporary magic vials.
Not I think I'd be interested in, well, on top of the whole magic items, well, magic construct thing could be interesting. Because, well, that's something you have to make first before you give life to it. So that's definitely something to consider. Then, I suppose, like, the whole summoning thing would be under the umbrella of conjuration. So, can I register those classes? Well, depending on like how you're supposed to.
Alrighty, so Gildas, you head over to the registration booth to apply for classes.
Yep.
As you arrive, there is a water ganassi behind the counter. As you approach, she looks at you. She at first furrows her brow, not really recognizing your face, and then simply nods in recognition shortly afterwards. Ah, what kind of class are you trying to study for, hun?
Oh, let's see. I like to follow the magical item course, but forging and all that. The magical construct one, and the general conjuration class. Although, might be a problem schedule-wise, as I'm not sure. Well, actually, to backtrack a bit, was there like anything pertaining to like when the classes would be held during a week or the frequency of them?
Most classes are held at multiple points within the week at different time schedules, seemingly due to the fact that multiple wizards have become either injured, maimed, or are busy with other things. So holding them multiple times throughout the week and at different times seems to be a way to try to give wizards less of an excuse to fail.
Mm-hmm. Right, so I'll just take back the last couple of words, say, yeah, that should be about it, I think.
She nods. Looking for a scholarship and a graduating contract under learning how to be a legendary forge master of some sort, then? When trying to create a mecha dragon or something?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but yes, that's a nice way to put it.
Alrighty then. She takes out a stamp, gets a card, stamps it 3 times with 3 different stamps, and then hands you the card. Show this at the front doors of any class you're attending that have these 3 symbols on them, and you'll be good to go. Don't lose it, you won't get another one.
Thank you. But yeah, just as she finishes the sentence, I take out my scroll case and put my stuff in it. Then, yeah, back to the library.
Alright. So, Bub, what are you up to?
Yeah, so, are all the jobs just posted on the job board, or is there other places I can go to get jobs in the university?
So the university actually has one massive board that you see a lot of kobolds are usually gathered around, like almost consistently. Kobolds gather around it to look at the board. It's written in Draconic.
Okay.
And
I can read that.
it is all, and you remember that it's the board that the blue dragon himself gives out, puts tasks on. He doesn't seem to pay attention to what tasks, he just puts them on there and then just lets the kobolds figure out how to do them.
Fair enough. Okay, so I'm gonna go approach the job board.
So Bub, as soon as you approach, half the kobolds look up with a smile, "Hi, Bub!" and the other half immediately look up with a frown, "Hey, Bub!"
Yeah, so Bub is gonna strut confidently towards the job board, and he's gonna look at it for a moment, and basically the jobs that I'm looking for are the dirty jobs. The jobs that even the other kobolds don't want to do. Like cleaning the latrines or killing an entire room of lice or something like that. Like the really dirty jobs that nobody wants to do.
So, as you're looking at it, looking for those kinds of jobs, there is a job that is feeding the black puddings that nobody seems to be wanting to take, and you've noticed it's been posted for 5 weeks.
Okay.
There's also a job mentioned polishing the crystal skeletons, which nobody seems to want to do either. And the last one is cleaning out the displacer beast cages.
Okay. Well, I'll take them. These all sound like combat jobs, though. All right. Yeah,
So,
I'll
Bob,
take them.
as which one are you gonna do first?
I don't have knowledge arcana, but is there like, would I know what these creatures are?
I can say that Bob would know what a displacer beast is, as well as the black pudding, and maybe know what the what the crystals are, kind of thing. Because
Yeah,
Bob
okay.
grew up in this place.
Yeah, I mean, as a player, I'm not really familiar with any of them. I know what a black pudding is, but that's about it. You literally just put that there because I said I didn't want to play it. Yeah, so I'm gonna go to the black pudding first.
Alrighty. So, Bob, as you approach the black pudding room, you find that there is the door is very clearly shut with magic, and there is a bell outside. And it says, ring bell if you want entrance, essentially.
All right. So how high is the bell off the ground?
It's as high as for a regular person, but you could see a step stool right beside it.
Oh, okay. They actually thought of that. Good, good, good. All right. So I climb the step stool very carefully. Even using my hands to grab onto the other thing of the step stool. And I'm gonna ring the bell.
Alright, so the bell gives off a very dull ring, 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 ring. And then shortly after, you see as a wizard comes walking down that aisle with a yellow cloak on. You can't see his face at all, but he gives you a nod. So, what you trying to do here? Bub, was it?
So what specifically was the job again for the pudding?
Feeding the black puddings.
Feeding the black pudding, sir.
Stay right there. He puts his hands back in his sleeves and begins walking away. He comes back shortly after with what you see is a giant, what looks like a big old terracotta soldier holding a plate full of meat.
Okay.
Here you go. Be careful. Black puddings can't tell what red meat from blue meat.
I'm one of those.
You see as he walks over to the door, takes out a card, flashes it in front of the door as the door shimmers, and he begins walking away.
Okay. So, is it like a big tray?
It is a big tray. The terracotta soldier's still there, by the way. He's still holding it.
Okay. Oh, am I supposed to take it from him? So yeah, I'll take the tray.
So as soon as you grab the tray, it weighs quite a lot.
Fuck.
It's like really heavy, but it plunks onto the ground a little bit, but you're able to readjust it afterwards. The terracotta soldier then immediately begins walking away once you've gotten the tray.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna peek in the doorway.
So as you peek in the doorway, Bub, you can see this entire room is coated in black, oily-looking substances. You can see it oozes on the walls and the floor and drops slowly down from the ceiling. And every once in a while, you could see tendrils on a bigger black thing in the corner of the room, like wiggling around.
Okay, so I'm gonna use my foot to push the door open, just ajar enough that I can fit the tray in, and I'm gonna put the tray on the ground very slowly, and then I'm gonna grab the door with one hand and say, wait, Black Oozes, do they even understand language? And I say, food's here, grab.
So as soon as the food tray is put down, you see as all the tendrils and ooze in the room begins moving towards it. Very indiscriminately. They didn't even wait for you to say anything.
I slammed the door.
The door is very heavy. Make an athletics roll.
No. 19.
Very good. Bub, you grab the door and in a panic, pull it shut with all your might as it slams shut with a boom. And you see it shimmer in front of your eyes again, protecting the door from being dissolved.
And so after catching my breath, I go on to the next job.
Okay, which one are you doing at the moment?
Clean the skeleton.
Alright, so this is actually a rather easy job. As you head into the room, Bub, you can see that it's basically a sort of a mausoleum or museum, maybe, at the same time. It's just filled with weird things. Both dead things and once living things and collectibles and artifacts and stuff. You can see a dude hunched over in the corner of the room. On a table in front of him is what looks like a fresh dead body. He's wearing a black cloak.
And is it near the skeleton or?
He's basically in front of a dead body hunched over in front of a table. He's the only person in the room.
The skeleton or the person?
The person. You don't see the skeletons. There are skeletons here, but you're not sure which one you need to clean.
Hi, I'm Bob. I'm here to clean the skeleton.
So, a person turns around, and you can see... Give me 1 second. What looks like a bird person with black feathers, wearing a black cloak. He blinks a little bit at you, stands up, looks around the room, and you see his beak open and close. In different cadences, he speaks to you and basically says, "Hi, Bub." When he said the word "Bub," it sounded like your voice. When he said "Hi," it sounded like someone else's entirely.
Alright, so Bob says, I need cleaning supplies.
The Birdman extends one hand over to a corner of the room, near him actually, where you could see a cleaning cloth, some water in a bucket, and a mop.
So I'm excitedly running towards the cleaning supplies. Cleaning surprise. Uh-oh, I don't want one of those. Yeah. I'm gonna, prepare the cleaning stuff, and I'm gonna get to work.
Alright, so as you look around the room, Bub, there's multiple different skeletons in the room. Most of them are, dead things that need a little bit of, touching up. It's like a little polish here, a little wash here. But you also see some crystal skeletons in the room. Most of these look like crystal statues of sorts. They all have mighty weapons that they hold in one of their crystalline hands, and they seem to be just stationed in front of the doorway as well as in the corners of the room, near the windows and the like. They look like this. Post in the Discord.
Ooh. Cool. All right, so I guess I'll approach them cautiously.
So, Bob, as you approach one of the crystal statues, you see as its head turns to you.
So, a little surprised, Bub says, a little nervously, I'm Bub. I'm here to clean you up. Shows the cleaning supplies.
Its head turns away from you, looking back at attention.
Alright, so provided there's no further negative feedback, I'll go up and clean it.
Alright, so Bub, make me an animal handling roll. 5. So this skeleton, you spend quite a long time cleaning it. It takes quite a long time. You got like 3 more to do.
Okay. Point 2.
Alright, so once you clean the first one, similar to how we were when you wrangled the pig on the farm, the first one was a horrible experience, but the very next time you did it, you got it down pat immediately, and you cleaned the other 3 in rapid succession.
Awesome. There you go, scrip and scrub.
Crystal statues don't seem to acknowledge you or interact with you at all. They just seem to have a single function that they provide.
Indeed. All right, so I'll bow and then take my leave.
Alrighty, so you got one last little job left, correct, Bob?
Mm-hmm.
So you head over to the displacer beast cages, and when you arrive in that area, it's less of a cage, and it looks almost like a slaughter pit.
Huh.
But it looks like things are thrown in here. It almost looks like it used to be a coliseum or something once, or like a little fighting ring. And you can see a lot of creatures in here that look like cats with about 6 legs and 2 tails that look like they have sharp-teethed paddles on the edges of them. Some of them are lounging around, others still are watching you with one eye, but they all seem to not even try to eat you or attack you. Though you can see a few dead kobolds in the room.
What am I supposed to do?
Clean the cages.
The inside of the cage?
That dangerous laughter means yes. Good luck, Bub.
So I'm tempted to back up, cast a spell, and stealthily clean the cages. To be honest. But technically I have to concentrate. That means I can't use my standard action to clean. That won't work. I don't think.
Concentration basically means that if it stays concentrated and you can't concentrate another spell while you have it, you can still use a standard action while you're having a spell concentrated.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
You just can't have another thing that uses concentration while you're concentrating on it. And if you take damage, you have to roll a con save, get a 10 or above, or you lose concentration.
Yeah, so... Are these things technically animal?
They are animalistic. They look like, freaks of nature, though. Almost monstrous by
well, I'm
by
gonna
their
try to
design.
communicate with them anyway.
You could try.
Say, hi, I'm Bub. I'm here to clean your cage.
So, as you speak up, Bub, a few of the ones that are lounging in the room perk their heads up, their ears standing up at attention. One of them, gives you a bit of a growl. Another one, however, just gives you a look and then keeps looking at you out of the side of its eye.
let's see. There's not an equivalent to animal empathy in 5th edition, is there? No.
You could try to roll animal handling to see if you could approach
What's a shot? 14?
safely. So, but with a 14, as you try to cautiously enter the room, the one that has its eye on you keeps its eye on you, but it stays where it's at. Another one that was looking at you with interest gets bored of you and walks away. And the one that was growling at you slowly ceases its growling, and but keeps its both eyes looking at you suspiciously.
Okay. So, starting in the corner nearest to me, I'm gonna start cleaning the cage.
Alrighty. So, let's see. Bub. Trying to figure out what I can have you roll for cleaning. You don't have that. You don't have that.
Or rifle? I don't know.
You don't have sleight of hand either, so I can't use that either.
No.
You know what? Oh, sure, I will use survival because Bub is trying to survive while cleaning.
5. I'm noticing a pattern here, guys.
Poor Bub. So, one of the displacer beasts moves closer to you as you keep cleaning.
Alright, I'd like to continue cleaning.
Alright, roll it.
What?
What are the odds?
Congratulations.
Very freaking low.
It's the exact same rolls, more or less.
There's no pattern, there's no synchronicity. No, doesn't exist. No.
Now, you are officially running the crit miss build. It's either one. Either I'm going to crit or I'm going to miss.
This is how my luck is, though. It's like, fail horribly, succeed greatly.
Alright, so Bob, as you continue cleaning, the one that was watching you continues getting closer to you. However, it seems more interested in what you're cleaning and why than you yourself. And you're able to kind of skirt around it, and with your 22, you're able to clean the rest of the Displacer Beast pen with little issue. Let's see. Oh, while you're cleaning, you also find a red gemstone in the room.
I have no way of seeing if it's magical, so I'm just gonna grab it and pocket it, because it's shiny. And I guess, do I... This is a gross question, but do I clean up the kobold corpses that are in there?
I'd imagine so.
Okay, I just wanted to ask. Because if I got, them, I'd want to give them a proper burial. Or, I don't know, I'm a druid. But I'm not that kind of druid. So yeah, I'll
I won't leave them there as nature does its course. That's disrespectful to my kobold brothers.
Yeah, so would I know what to do with them?
You would. There is actually a place in the college where kobolds, if they die and are retrieved, can be placed. And any kobolds that were close to them or the like can actually pay a respect before the dragon will handle the rest.
Okay. Alright, so I'll go ahead and go over there and do so.
No.
That's awful.
Savage.
Y'all are gonna kill me. Y'all are gonna kill me.
But then we win, so it's all good.
Alright, but Bub, you handled that. You're handed 10 silver for the retrieval of the dead kobolds.
Uh-huh.
and the returning of them. As the other kobolds cleaned the Displacer Beast room as well, but none of them were bold enough to try to take the Displacer Beast's quote-unquote food from them. As well as when you finish up your task, a wizard comes over wearing a yellow cloak that is, you can't see his face at all. All you can see is that he has very pale skin. He's the same one who came over with the terracotta pot, actually. He holds out his hand to you with a satchel of some coins in it.
Thank you, sir.
So, Bub, you get yourself 10 silver and 20 copper.
For all 3 jobs?
Yeah, for all of them total.
Got it.
On top of the 10 extra silver that you had gotten for the returning of the bodies.
Yep. Okay, got it.
Alrighty. So I will move back over to Delon at the moment.
Yep.
So Delon, what are you doing at the moment? You finished up your reading of the resources of your reading. So, what would you like to get up to in the college? I will also say that while you're in the library, I imagine Gildas is in the library part as well. Both of you can see Displacer Beasts moving around. You can also see another creature that every once in a while crawls on the ceiling or on the walls. It looks very weird and very unnatural, like it was made or something. Looks like this.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there's no way we know.
Delon, hello?
Damn mute.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, you just trying to get out of it. Yes. Summon me.
So, Delon, what are you getting up to at the moment? You finished up your reading in the library, and you can see Displacer Beasts moving around in the library part proper, seemingly going on guard rotations of some sort. And you can also see a creature which I posted in Roleplayer's Refuge that occasionally crawls on the walls or on the ceilings and the like.
Roleplayer's Refuge. Is it under NPCs?
Oh, no. It's in Roleplayer's Refuge, the Discord.
Oh. Right.
I posted the image there.
I see. Crab people. Oh no. Horrible things. These are terrifying creatures. My God. So it's just kind of what I want to do now.
Yes. What are you up to now?
Personally, I'm digging into the probably another book. He's probably just in the middle of another book. More specifically, dragons, because he wants to know more about his lady.
Alrighty. So,
lady and the other dragons.
Roll me a history check.
I will roll all the history checks. I will roll 3 times. Specifically 3. None of them will count except for the first one, but I'm going to do it because I said so. I'm in a good mood today, so.
That's good. Very good.
14. It's pretty
Very
good.
nice. Very nice. So with the 14,
Not shabby.
you find that most of the books on Dragonkind are penned by a name that is written in that you recognize, Delon, as written in Draconic, which is simply the color blue.
Thank God I can read Draconic. I think.
I believe you can.
Speak it. Yes, I can speak it. Yes. Yes, I can read. I have proficiency in Draconic. It's hard language, but I learned it.
Most of them are penned by this person, who simply penned their name as the color blue, in specifically Draconic. As you look through the book, it seems to go in. There's multiple books that seem to go into theory crafting, more on like where dragons come from, as well as their biology and what potentially how they function. Which is it's all bulky reading, to be fair. It's filled with overly analytical terms and almost like a borderline dissectional level of detail. It feels like a very advanced read. However, a few chapters in later, it more goes into the storytelling revolving around dragons and certain other things similar. And there's multiple stories about dragons, namely dragons being helpful and or terrifying monstrosities or beasts to be slain by mighty heroes, all the likes. And the book makes a point to say that all of these stories are true. Dragons are wonderful heroes, aids to an entire nation, the terrors of your nightmares, and the stealings of your women, all at the same time. It goes into great detail describing that every dragon of different colors seems to have an inclination that they are not themselves always aware of. However, the color that they are seems to play a massive part in their temperament, as well as their predispositions in life, as well as whether they could be reasoned with. It later goes into detail about the current dragons. When it gets to this part, the writing changes very much to less analytical and almost more like somebody discussing old friends. It's very casual at this point. Almost unusually so for the weirdly analytical, almost robot-y, if you knew what one of those were, level of speech and writing before. It goes into detail talking about the ancient black dragon, how he's always been a brute and a barbarian. He would frequently terrorize his clutch mates at even a young age to assert his dominance. As such, many dragons in the clutch fell in line and listened to him. However, he was also unfeeling and unempathetic, not really understanding or even seemingly capable of understanding of it why another dragon might cry. More so calling it weakness and telling them to cease such weaknesses. Another dragon that it mentions is one that it says is the red dragon. A dragon of fire and passion, as well as power and ferocity. The author draws a very clear parallel to the black dragon. However, it seems to talk as if it knows all the dragons as well. In talking about the red dragon, the author seems to speak about the red dragon in a way that seems to discuss it as if an older brother that you admire but you also hate at the same time. The red and ancient black dragons in this book are noted to have been like two peas in a pod at one time. Both agreeing on how things should be done, as well as mutually tussling and grappling and warring with each other for true dominance, and neither one truly being able to get a permanent leg up on the other. If one took an inch, the other would take a mile, for instance. Then it gets to the green dragon, where it describes the green dragon in constant details that are just basically similes for selfish or annoying. The author does not like the green dragon in any capacity. However, it does make multiple points to say that the green dragon is clever and very smart. However, it makes a point to consistently downplay and almost attack or belittle the green dragon's own intelligence for misusing said intelligence. When it gets to the blue dragon, there's actually surprisingly a large amount of details saying that the blue dragon was considered the weakest of its clutch. Very, very considered to be annoying or overly inquisitive. How it would always wander up to the ancient black or red dragon when they were small and attempt to understand why their fires that they breathed were so hot or acidic. However, in return, it got a face full of fire or acid. It also mentions that it always tried to pal around with the green dragon, but the green dragon was never very fun to deal with, always taking advantage of the blue dragon's naivete and usually claiming the blue dragon did things bad that the green dragon himself did. Seems the blue dragon overall had a weirdly follow whoever that it had its interest level of lifestyle. However, it goes into great detail about when later it struck out on its own. It began dabbling in all things that had ever caught its fancy now that it had the means to do so, getting completely engrossed and almost obsessive over details here and there and yonder. It mentions that it's one of its both favorite and illest memories is how it once turned a cow into a three-headed minotaur just to see if it could. There's a surprising amount of detail on the blue dragon, the book denoting almost 3 or 4 chapters to it alone, almost like an autobiography. And when it gets to the pearl dragon, it mentions a level of care and respect for it, but also a clear almost frustration with the pearl dragon's status. It seems to be more frustrated that the pearl dragon seems to be revered almost like a goddess by certain people or groups. Not quite liking that she's put up on a pedestal. But also praising that she does many similar things that the author feels dragons should be getting up to, like dabbling in magic, other natural occurrences, and occasional meddlances in human affairs, or keeping certain watches on things. However, the author seems to go into great detail describing the pearl dragon as frustrating in her ever dichotomy, mentioning that she is a intrinsically curious creature, much like the blue. However, she is a very irrational creature at the same time as being overtly prideful and confident, as well as at the very same time being ever the lone wolf, even when the dragons were clutchmates, choosing isolation and contemplation over anything else. It does mention that the pearl dragon is one of the few dragons to have make a point to interact with humankind, both in draconic form and in a non-draconic visage. Something most of the at least two of the dragons choose never to do. There is a very small part of the book that goes over dragons having a sort of a poly-shaping type of ability where they can change their appearance to better suit certain things. So some people might even ever know there was a dragon amongst them at any time, essentially. That's most of what you get from the book.
Yeah, we thought as much. Delon sees all these books in front of him at this point and goes, so much in front of me. But I'm still so far away. Let's see. He snaps his fingers and he makes a tally of the titles of the books, and he writes on a piece of paper that he has with him that he can, of all the various ones, and he's going to look for a possible librarian slash whoever's running the joint.
Alright, so as you go looking around for a librarian or somebody who could be the cataloger of these books, you find that there's only one person in the library, outside of UC Gildos. There is a figure wearing a gold cloak that seems to cover their every feature. The only thing you can see is pale skin beneath.
I will approach this figure.
So as you approach them, the figure is currently they're currently putting books in a very specific order on the shelf. They actually occasionally will stop, pull 3 books off the shelf, and then put 2 back, and then take 3 more off the shelf, and then put 2 more back, essentially. Very methodical, not seeming to care for the tedium.
Don will cough into his hand and go, pardon me, if I might have some of your time.
The figure turns around, gives you a single nod of acknowledgement. Hello.
Is it a man or a woman?
It's hard to tell.
Got it. He will be very neutral. Excuse me. I was interested in these titles of books. I was wondering, did you have any additional books on draconic magics and other cultures and such?
The figure seems to pause, putting their hand on a chin that you can't see underneath their cloak, but they do put their hand there, thinking for a moment before speaking up again. We have multiple books on magic and draconic and the like.
Ah, excellent. Then I have a request. Is it at all possible to get copies of these, as I am eventually have to travel outside of Asterium, and of course I would be horrified to take such learning from this facility. What is the process for me to get copies, or possible compendiums of multiple books in a travel size, if at all possible?
The figure shakes their head at you. All books in all books of the like are permanent property of the College of Asterium. We do not make copies unless it is classwork material that is handed out to any student on a certain level, well cataloged. However, we do function off a lending system, where we lend the person who sends in a request a book so that they can take it with them, on the promise that they return it before the timetable is up. And if the timetable is not met, we will be sending mage hunters, displacer beasts, and other things to collect the items loaned.
That's certainly troublesome. I would not want to cause any incident or necessity. As I said, I do travel, and I might not come back to Asterium in quite some time, knowing the possible due date. And in my quest, these would be a formidably important knowledge. Is there not someone I can speak to that might perhaps help me or enable me to do so?
I'm afraid not. The only people who have official licenses to copy certain books are the dragon himself, and he's much too busy to copy a book page by page.
So Delon thinks for but a moment and then goes, question then. And I'm gonna roll charisma on this.
Mm-hmm.
Would I be able to copy them myself if I purchase a blank compendium, several, and I dictate from the learnings? Would I be able to do so? I'm not violent as long as I'm not violating any courtesies, of course.
Persuasion.
Damn.
Yeah,
Make a
persuasion.
persuasion roll.
Right, persuasion.
There you go.
Bam!
So the figure seems to contemplate for a full-on minute on your quarry before beginning to speak up. I do suppose such things could be arranged. However, copying such things is rather difficult and lengthy, and requires hands-on and access to the original copy. Would you not be better spent doing that time simply reading the book itself? While I have no problems with a student copying over certain notes from a book so that they can carry them with them for future reference, copying the entire book would take so much time. Aren't you better simply memorizing the book?
My memory is quite sharp, but my intent is to copy as best I can as I need, and then fill in the rest myself. I feel, while facts are important, we miss a lot of details in the meantime, but I would need a significant amount of it. At least this way I can take what I need necessarily from as best as I can, or what I feel is the most important, and then in the meantime, over time, I can fill in the blanks, possibly with additional inquiries or opinions from the people. If that suits your question.
I see. Even still, I understand you must leave the college at some point. However, carrying such valuable books with you across such long distances, while telling the college not to worry about sending out our collectors is a bit difficult.
Which is why I allowed the compromise of me copying my own. The individual books would not be compromised. I would only copy notes of you telling specifics. The rest would be blank and determinate of my own knowledge, or appropriation of it later. You lose nothing, but I can see how this is a conundrum. Thought my proposal would be good enough. Perhaps I've been thinking.
The figure turns back around and begins putting books back on the shelf, but begins speaking to you all the same. If you wish to copy notes, no matter the level of detail or the quality, that is entirely up to you. Simply make sure that every book you take goes back on the shelf where it was. I grow tired of rearranging my shelves for the students.
Of course. Thank thee. Then where might I purchase an amount of compendiums, so I might do so?
You do not have paper or patronage on your person?
Paper, of course, but without it being bound in a book, it would be chaotic, in perpetuity.
Figure keeps putting books up on the shelf, pulling a cart with them as they do so.
I was gonna roll possibly a persuasion and being like, or unless you're saying that your books are like, it can be just wasted. Like, you're fine with them just rattling around in my sack.
No, they're basically telling you that if you want to sit down at a table and one for one take the time to copy it out on the table in the Asterium College, you can do so. That's what they're allowing.
Oh. Okay, so basically I could stay as long as I want, copy all of it.
Yeah, it would just take the time, essentially.
Yeah, basically. Alright. Whatever. I got what I wanted, I guess. Pain in the ass, but okay.
Alrighty, Gildos.
Yep.
So what are you up to at the moment?
Alright, well, I'm back at the library because I might need some couple of basic things to know in Asterium. And well, first off, essentially Conjuration for Dummies, because we're in a college, so that I presuppose you have basic knowledge of like what you want to pursue, but I don't. So I'd like to have at least the basis covered. And the book I'm looking for is essentially religious practices in Asterium, because well, I'm a newly appointed cleric. I'm not really familiar with how Asterium works, so don't really want to step on any toes,
Right.
kind of thing.
So make me a history check to find the books you
Yep.
need.
Uh-huh. 2, only 1. It's the 16.
Alright. So, you find the Conjuration for Dummies book quite obviously. It's specifically named Conjuration for Non-Dragons.
Right.
It's also pinned by somebody who has written their name in a language you can't read.
Mm-hmm.
As for the information on religious practices in the areas of Asterium, there is actually a sort of a census of sorts of people following religions or following deities or practices for Asterium. It seems to be something that's cataloged roughly every year for Asterium. And there's a surprising amount of people that mention that they don't practice very actively, except to the mainstay king's gods, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Where they'll maybe light a candle for dinner, or or when they have a drink, they'll remember to think of the deities as they have a drink or something. Very minor, light practices.
Right.
There's actually no churches in Asterium, funnily enough, or anything of the sort. Simply people practicing massive amounts of different magics.
Mm-hmm.
Most clerics or paladins or even or in the like seem to come from other places. However, patrons or sorcerers using patrons and the like seems far more common in Asterium. And while not necessarily religious by their definition, they are listed as under the census as well.
I mean, that makes sense in a way, yes, so... Man. I'm just surprised there's literally no church. You'd think a city like Asterium, with these grand, like, buildings, made of gems and all, would, take up the task of building one of the most beautiful church or the cathedral. I mean, it's the sort of building you'd find, well, you would expect to find in Asterium, if not for the religious practice, but for the prestige
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. Well, I guess the college could be the closest thing to one.
The other
Worshipping
thing
the
of
God.
note is that there is a license required to preach your religion in the streets.
Another license? Ah. Well, thankfully you don't need a license for basic necessities. So, but, well, I'll keep that in mind for later. But yeah, taking all that in, essentially, Asterium not religious, well, not religious enough, got preach. So just put it on the back burner, essentially. And I turn my attention to the Conjuration Book. Essentially, how does that work?
So, Conjuration seems to be covering a large, just spectrum of different kinds of things. Most of them have to do with either making things or creating things or sort of putting life to things, whether temporarily or permanently. Certain things of note are quills that write as you speak, brooms that sweep for you, mops that mop for you, knives that cut food for you. Warforged are considered to be a conjuration, as well as certain automated creatures, whether they be made of stone, steel, or crystal. Sort of statues that are later imbued with life and given a goal. Warforged are seen as an evolution of those creatures, specifically. Ones that have a little more mechanics to them. A little more moving parts. A little more complicated. A thing of note is that the Conjuration Book lists that at the end of the class, the thing that you have to do to be able to pass is create a Warforged.
It's gonna take a while, but there is one question I want to raise after this. Is that they specifically said that putting life into something counts as conjuration, yet putting life in a body, or like a skeleton or anything, counts as necromancy. So what's the difference?
The difference
Because
is...
wouldn't the skeleton count as a thing?
So, the book doesn't list that here, but if you wanted to ask perhaps an instructor for that, you would be able to ask. There are plenty of instructors wandering around.
Well, that's probably like a question to ask during a class, honestly.
Would you like to attend a conjuration class?
Well, yes, actually, I was going to ask, like, once I'm done with the books, like, which of the 3 things I've registered to can I attend at the moment?
You could attend any of them, as there are multiple ones that you could find at the moment, depending on where you wanted to go at the moment.
Well,
there's almost always a free space in a class for some reason.
I mean, yeah, but if people die or like on journey, and yeah, that would make sense. Right. Well, actually, yeah, I'll go to the conjuration class anyway, because that'll segue into what I want to do after that, so.
Alrighty. So as you wander into the conjuration class, you can see a instructor wearing a gold cloak is standing in front of a statue that looks like it's made of gold, and he's speaking to the classroom. Alrighty, so today I wanted to inform you all what it means when I say that we create constructs. Now, aberrations are of course, and abominations and monstrosities are technically fall under our jurisdiction of conjuration. After all, if you conjure a creature, it's conjuration. Now, this golden statue is beautifully crafted and came from King's Landing. Now, which of you wants to see what happens when I imbue life into it and create it and make it a golem?
I'll raise my hand.
Excellent. Come up right here, right in front.
So nod.
You see multiple other students look at you with worry and concern. With your passive perception, you hear somebody whispering, "The last student who volunteered ended up in the hospital."
Well, man, I kind of wish I studied the law a bit too, because would I be allowed to actually cast magic inside the college without repercussion? I mean, I would assume I could, because that's the entire purpose of the college. So it's just to know if I can cast Healing Word just in case something goes bad. Well,
you'll have to find out.
You know what? Like, it doesn't count as magic, so I'm just gonna put Blessing of the Forge on myself. It makes crazy. It blows up. I mean,
So when you walk up to the instructor, he looks at you and gives you a nod and a pat on the shoulder and gestures for you to stand right in front of the golden statue. Please stand right here, right here. Very good. Alrighty. Now, I want you to look very carefully as I cast a spell on this here golden statue. The goal is to make a golden golem. However, the last golden golem I tried to make exploded in golden liquid metal. The poor soul ended up burned from head to toe. On the plus side, he will forever be shiny.
then, as a question, sir,
Yes.
how did the explosion happen? Was it carelessness or simply instilling too much life into the statue?
It was my own carelessness, I'm afraid. After all, the process is rather volatile, and as an instructor, I tend to like to use my teaching as a way to also further my own studyage. And while I am, of course, an expert on golem making, even I have trouble making golden golems. So while I instruct you in the proper procedure to create golems, I'm also furthering my own knowledge by creating golden golems. You hear murmuring from the class all talking about, like, is this legal?
I'll just raise an eyebrow looking at my instructor, then like come face to face with the golem, and mutter a prayer under my breath for protection.
Alright, so he begins muttering an incantation. It takes about an hour or so as he performs a bit of a ritual, gathering multiple materials, and notably a diamond. And a few pearls, as well as certain other materials like gold ingots and the like. And they eventually become liquid, turning into a liquid that pools beneath the golden golem before getting soaked into it. Eventually, the gold statue begins to burgeon and shudder. Alright, let's find out what happens.
This is how I with a bang.
Alright, so it burgeons with a shudder, and its right arm thrusts outwards. As you take 5 bludgeoning damage. Huzzah! It didn't explode, but I am very sorry, as you got a bloody nose there. If you have a grievance with the class, please know that the non-disclosure agreement agrees that I am not at fault.
It's alright. I've got worse the day before, so.
Very good, very good. Now, I want you to move around the room.
Alright. You know what? Let's move toward the students who whispered.
As you begin moving towards the students who whispered, the golden golem begins miming your every move, following you.
Uh-huh. And continue moving around. Then, like, once I realize what's up, just gonna turn around, go to the golem, then, like, extend my hand, see what he does.
It extends the very same hand on the to yourself.
Right, well, I'll give him a handshake then.
It mimes the gesture.
Right, but I want to know the force exerted by the golem on the cell as I handshake it. Is it the same as I would, or is it like in control?
It is extremely tight, only lessening when you loosen your hand. As if it has no real understanding of the level of force that it applied at all, simply applying it.
So, I'll look around some more, then finally ask. So, to what extent can it mimic me?
It can mimic your every move. It cannot speak, so it cannot mimic speech. And it can mimic your actions bodily. For instance, if you will go to pick something up, it will attempt to pick something up as well. This is a very simple golem.
Right.
A bit of a brute forcer or a handy tool, so to speak. It's very nifty for cleaning a room or moving things about or tilling a field. Though the ultimate goal of a golden golem is one that could even impress a king.
Mm-hmm. Then, well, the one question I have remaining then is how to turn it off. So,
Well, that's the tricky thing. I hope you enjoy having a golden golem follow you around, dear boy, for the next 6 hours.
well, at least there's a free seat next to me, so that shouldn't be a problem. But,
Now, does anybody have a question about the process? One student raises a hand. Are those levels of materials really necessary? That's quite a lot of wealth that you essentially turned into liquid metal for a golem that only functions for 6 hours. Of course it's necessary! Why, once you're working with a golem, the only thing that can work is the levels of materials that fit the host material, and potentially grander. Why do you think I'm not working with diamonds, dear child? Even I can't afford a diamond golem on my salary. Right, sorry. Any other questions?
well, see, right now I'm wondering what to do with the golem after it turns off. Like, do I keep it? Do I have to give it back? Kind of thing. But actually, I do. Maybe, well, rather dim-witted, but I need to know exactly what makes the conjuration different from necromancy, or rather, necromancy different from conjuration. If, in a sense, what you do is instill life into something that doesn't have it.
Several of the students seem to begin murmuring about if that's okay to ask. We don't really usually talk about necromancy classes. However, the teacher gives you a wide smile. I love the inquisitive young minds. Keep that inquisitive, my dim-witted boy. It'll get you very far. You won't be dim-witted for very much longer, I promise you.
Well, how have you know I have 14 intelligence?
You called yourself dim-witted, so he just went with it.
I will say, the question itself, really, not in general.
He just took it as general. He's a wizard.
Then again, the instructor underestimated me. I made like a ghost off. Like, don't you know? Not that kind
As
of
for
person.
as for the difference, it's a bit of a fine distinction. It mostly dabbles with this type of magic being used, and so the level of focus, as well as the raw elements of it, so to speak, as well as the focus at hand. For instance, golems typically use earthen structures, be it gold, stone, metal, diamonds, crystals. We use things that come from the earth, which allow us to have a more earthly affinity for it, and it simplifies the process. Necromancy, while it is not my specialty, I do have a secondary degree in it. As, one does. One of the students immediately whispers, that explains a lot. Anywho, necromancy's difference is mostly in intention and the specific quality you're using as the host. Necromancy uses dead or living things, mostly previously living, typically speaking, the fresher the better, or the more powerful the better, as tends to be. Now there is a slight distinction of a necromancy that I will preface. Not all necromancers desire to become liches. That is a horrible rumor, and it's false! Most of us are just assholes who want to see what happens when we make a body come to life. Come on! Get with the program. Now, if you want, theoretically speaking, one could revive a dragon, turning it into a sort of a Dracolich, and the difference between conjuration and necromancy is that necromancy typically commands it with exact unlimited control. Conjuration can have unintended consequences, which makes it more fun in my opinion, and they don't always listen. Case in point, Warforged. Some Warforged are really rotten children, and they don't listen to their masters at all. What we do with those Warforged, everyone knows, we make sure that we either handled or disassembled. As for necromancy, say you res an old king, well, he'll stink a bit and he'll ooze out his left side, but, you know, he'll continue functioning mostly as you want him to, and he'll do exactly as you tell him. Now, I don't know about you, but having complete control over my creation is a little boring.
Mm-hmm.
However, necromancy can be used in some ways to, in medicinal fields or in other ways. If you want to learn more about necromancy, boy, I recommend you go into the class itself. This is not the right class to be having a lecture on it. And I could get in trouble if I keep lecturing more.
No, this is fine. It was just I just needed clarification. I have no real interest in necromancy at large.
Ah, the curious mind that wants to give a peek into necromancy, but has no interest, and he gives you a wink. I get you very well.
Just gonna raise an eyebrow. Just like, shake my head. Right. But that is all I had to add. Thank you. I think I understand now.
He gives a nod, and he pulls out a tiny little crystal soldier. All right, now, which one of you wants to try and replicate the process with the tiny crystal man? Eventually, the class continues on. 3 students having to be rushed to the infirmary as crystal shatters are exploded into their bodies.
Probably heal them myself when I sleep, but
Alright, and we're gonna roll. Okay. So you get no additional benefit for attending the class outside of attending.
Yep. Okay. I got my friend Goldass now.
Goldass. Alrighty. So, Bub, what are you up to at the moment?
Alright, so I've done all the dirty jobs.
Yes.
Let's see. So, what Bub is gonna do is... Let's see. What sort of classes was Bub taking before he got kicked out?
You were learning, mostly about, druidic magic, sylvan magic, Feywild stuff, and the like, as well as responsibilities of a druid.
Okay, that's a lot, actually. I'm gonna get my feet wet and take a class.
Alright, which class would you like to learn, Bub?
So it's basically just what you listed. I guess I want to study whatever would help my nature skill.
Alrighty. So, You go over to attend the Feywild class, and you can see a lot of elves, some kobolds in the room. Let's see. You can see some drow in the room, as well as some Ganassi. For the most part, that seems to be the makeup of the class. It seems to be a rather simple class, mostly discussing wild things, what happens in nature, the way nature works, and the like. The teacher is notably a tiefling. So as you walk into the room, the teacher looks up, quirks an eyebrow, and walks in, puts a Venus flytrap looking plant back on a table as was holding it, and begins walking over to you.
Okay.
And what do we have here? I didn't know you were back to being enrolled, bub.
Hello, I'm back.
Apparently so, if you're back in here without being thrown out. Well then, take your usual seat. He
So he
turns
runs
around
up.
and begins walking away back to the front of the class.
Okay, so he runs up to like the front of the room and takes his seat.
So, Bubba, as you take a seat, you can see that certain people have written on your desk. One that says like "Miss ya, bub." One is like "Don't miss ya, bub." One points towards the "Don't miss ya, bub." It says "You're an ass." The other one has an arrow pointing at the "Nor an ass." It says "No, you."
Oh, everybody was thinking about me. All right, I have to do my best.
All right. So as you attend the class, the teacher begins going over details of just overall like how vicious and how much of a dog-eat-dog world the wild nature can be, because it's just untamed, just pure feral. Today's class seems to be about certain plants that live in the Savage Lands. This one is a magically reproduced specimen from a seed, and the room is filled with a putrid stench. Mostly emanating from this plant that is on a table. It's just a really awful stench. It smells like almost like dead bodies or something. Like, it's just a horrible smell. What we have here is a magically recreated creature from the Savage Lands. Now, don't come anywhere near it, and while its stench will not drop you unconscious, and it is not big enough to gather your body for itself and its purposes, means it's no less dangerous. It is still a savage creature that desires to eat and procreate. However, from this creature we can learn a great deal. That the reason why we teach necromancy in this school, for instance, is that many wild creatures that are natural can create such things. For instance, there are funguses that reanimate corpses for their own will, and this plant, in its mature, realistic form, can propagate itself in a similar fashion. It's a dirty sort of thing, but it happens. Now, I want a volunteer to see who can resist falling unconscious as they get closer to the stench.
So my hands was up before he stopped speaking. My hand was already up.
The teacher gives you a look, bub, and gesture for you to come up. Come on up here, bub.
Alright, I walk on up.
So, bub, I believe it is I think it's a con save, so make a con save.
Oh, yay, I have a -2 in con. Let's go. That's a 7.
Oof. So, Bob, as you get closer, the stench begins to perpetrate and take up root in your nose, and the world gets dizzy and you fall unconscious.
Yay!
The class continues onwards with you just laying on the floor in front of the plant. Teacher not doing anything about it. And the class continues until until it's over, where the plant is promptly put back in a cage and you awaken in the infirmary. You could see at least 3 students with crystal shards embedded in their person. You could see a student who's got a full body cast on. There's a smell of burnt toast in the room, and as you look that way, there's a student who looks like who's like half his body is black. And, you know, the works.
Lovely. Yeah, so Bub wakes up and he's like, oh man. I'll write a memo and it says, remain conscious for the entire class, and it says goals.
Alrighty. So back to Delon. What are you up to at the moment? Still transcribing?
So, Delon, in frustration, has been taking notes from what parts of the many books he has in front of him. Eventually, midway on his 10th note, he just exclaims and just goes, this will take days, possibly weeks. I can't just sit in the university this entire time scribing every last detail. There must be something. And he snaps his fingers again. Maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way. Perhaps there is a magical means around this. Yes, perhaps there is. But I'm a student. I do not what to do in this matter. I would need a opinion. Yes. Yes. And at this point, he takes the notes what he has, leaves the books where he has it, leaves one last note and says, coming back shortly, we'll return, we'll put back soon. Leave alone. And he's going to head off and see if he can talk with a teacher or something of the like. Specifically, he's looking for one who teaches, I guess, to the best of his knowledge. Really, he's just looking for if his idea is even plausible or whatever.
So you don't have to go very far as you begin asking around for such things before you find a student wearing a blue cloak approaches you. You can tell it's a woman, notably a what looks to be either a half elf or an elf of some sort. And so you're asking around and looking for some sort of transcribing process. Having trouble keeping notes yourself?
Yes, milady. It is a similar issue, but I was actually looking for something more interesting. I had a proposal, was going to inquire if it was possible. See, I am an adventurer, and I can't take borrowed books. It would be shameful. I know I would never come back in the time to return them, and I wouldn't want to bother these great many beasts and magical beings to chase after a lowly knight as me. So, I was scribing notes as best I could to take on my journeys, but then I had an idea. What if I could make a book be able to hold more information? I could etch upon it new information. It could be a compendium of something that could retain multiple different facets of knowledge. And then I thought more about it, and I thought about it a lot, and I thought, why not make an adventurer's guide? It would have a plethora of knowledge, many different aspects of cultures, nations, history, basic arcana. It could be extremely useful on my journey, and perhaps in time could even be a guide for future adventurers. What to look out for, what to worry about, such as, and they wouldn't, if they wanted more detail, they could go to either King's Landing or here. But I don't have the faintest idea who I would speak to in such an idea, in such as this.
She seems to think for a moment before nodding. So, sort of a adventurer's guide of sorts.
Yes, exactly, my lady.
There's not really any such thing like that currently in the library. I believe people seem to kind of think that it's just kind of redundant since you have all the other books themselves
But
that cover the
imagine,
subjects individually in better detail. But sort of a catch-all book might have a good purpose.
that's what I was thinking. Not only for myself, but also in the future. It's very advantageous in the future of or anyone who has an interest in a certain subject. Should they find an interest in one certain field, they could then come here. It would be a bridge to the university after all.
She nods. I think it would definitely have an audience. As for helping you finding a way to do such a thing, you'd need a lot of time set aside to transcribe whatever topics you felt were needed from other books and copy them into this book while citing the sources. I thought you were simply having trouble copying notes. If that was the case, I was gonna tell you that you could borrow a quill of some sort if you wanted.
Unfortunately, it seems my ambitions have gotten the best of me. I suppose there really is no way around it. I'd have to stay here much longer than I would have liked in order to help myself in the long run.
She gives you almost a half-hearted or like rather casual shrug. Well, I mean, you got access to the College of Asterium. Why would you want to leave it so soon without graduating? It's quite difficult to get in.
You see, my lady, do I have upon me a blue cloak?
No, but I can tell you're new, so I assumed you haven't been given yours yet.
Fair enough. No, I wear the garbs of a knight. Magic and knowledge and these things are really new to me, and frankly speaking, I don't believe I have the talent for such things. No, I have a quest that I must go upon, and it is a quest that the world and a certain person, being that is important to me, has requested of me. The longer I delay in such things, the worse this will get me. So, I am hoping to spend as less time as possible.
She just gives you another shrug. Can't say I quite understand. I mean, I fully intend to spend as much time as I physically can in the college. After all, my family spent quite a lot of money to get me access. However, I can tell you have extenuating circumstances, so here you go. She hands you a quill.
What is this?
You might find it faster. Dictate what you're reading, and it will write it for you.
Ah, thank you. How may I repay you for such kindness?
Cite me as an aid in your book, I guess.
Indeed. What is your name?
My name is Gallandale.
Okay. Indeed. Do you come from a strong house? Or?
No, rather low house, to be honest. My family saved up for generations to send me to college.
Then it is a great triumph that you have reached here. I congratulate them on their progress and their ability to see long foresight.
Well, that sells for you. Very long-term planners. Though I don't know if I'll actually be able to live up to their dreams of hoisting our family into higher society, but I'll try.
If I may say so, miss, you already have.
She just gives you a bit of an eye roll and a smile. I say it's yet to be seen.
Well, you said it yourself. None have stepped upon this ground except for you. Now you've done something no one else can. You've already done it. But I have music. But I need to stop talking and get back to work. Thank you.
She gives you a nod and returns to a table across the way, reading multiple scrolls.
Oh my god, this is the most boring crap I've ever done in a D&D session ever. Like, I'm actually really angry that this is where this is going, but okay. I'm in it now. I don't have a choice.
Hey, I mean, the party's in the College of Asterium. There's a lot of things you could get up to.
Yeah, no one's asked for Delon to do anything else other than what he's doing, so, you know.
Well, I mean, what does Delon want to get up to? He has to get up to it himself. The college is like a real college. You kinda gotta be self-driven.
Delon is like, fine. At this point, he has a quill in hand. I'm gonna find that goddamn professor. So I'm just gonna go to see the inner. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna talk to the blue dragonborn. Maybe they know.
So as you go looking for the blue dragonborn, he seems to be missing at the moment, likely doing other things. But you have a quill that will speed up your transcribing process.
Yeah.
And all the books that you would need to do such a thing.
Yep.
Alrighty, make me a history roll, I'll say, to transcribe the books. Alright.
10.
So you make about maybe 20% of your progress at the moment.
Yay.
So back to Gildos, what are you up to?
Fuck.
Oh, problem is I have my buddy Goldas. He's like there for like this another 5 hours. And the problem is, it would be really useful right now if, and only if, I had smithing material. Because hey, I can smith at twice the speed. Because I can't, so... yeah, let's take a look around the college actually. She's like, it's like anything to do with like a golem with me. It's like I could do what I wanted to do, but I feel like it'd be in the way. So.
Alrighty then. So as you go looking around for things to do, Gildas, there's still plenty of classes, there's books all over the place. There is a job board where you can see kobolds are consistently gathered around, which seem to work off sort of a credit system as well for students, where if a student fulfills certain jobs, that goes towards their class time, essentially. There's also multiple other things, like there's people sorting books all over the place. There's still creatures wandering around all over the place. Really almost anything that you could get up to.
Well, let's take a look at the job board. There's probably like a few listing about like things to carry or carry around and all that.
So as you approach the job board, you can see that there are a plethora of both mundane and odd jobs. For instance, there's jobs mentioning emptying out a storage room to create another classroom. There's jobs that are sorting the books in a certain particular order. There's jobs of like mopping up floors. There's a job that seems to always be there no matter how many people seem to show up and get paid for it. Cleaning the summoning circles. And many other certain things. There's jobs for cleaning, jobs for heavy lifting. There's also jobs that seem to be sort of extermination projects or that will definitely require a hands-on approach.
Alright, but not necessarily. I'm not really in the state to do extermination. Like, I can't kill anything today, especially with my health. So, actually, I'm gonna take up the whole emptying the storage room, the classroom thing.
All right. So, The job, once you go over, has multiple rooms listed, and they just seem to be move the stuff from here to here, essentially. They give a rather complete list of which rooms to go to, as well as where to move the materials into.
Uh-huh.
And as you approach a room for one that you're looking for to clear out, as you get to the room, you could find that it is filled with crates, boxes, hammers, odds and ends. You swear you see a fruit cart with rotten fruit on it. You could see a satchel full of bricks for some reason. There's even like a satchel with what looks to be like different jewels in it. There's even a chest with books and scrolls and stuff in it. It just seems to be a collection of odds and ends thrown haphazardly into a room.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything labeled dangerous so I can't care?
The books in the chest and scrolls are labeled as handle with care, as is the bag full of jewels. Outside of that, there doesn't seem to be too much else here that's especially mentioned to handle with a special amount of care.
Right, so nothing like a blow up. That's all I need to know. Right, well, I'm gonna start and like slowly get everything out first in the hallway. To like put everything in different piles. To then, so then I can bring them to the corresponding rooms. Then, I wonder, can I actually give orders to the Golem?
You can definitely try.
Right. So, as we like do the whole thing with the hallway, can I try and pick two crates at the same time? So, I look at Goldas and say, "Could you pick that up and carry it?"
It just simply walks over to it and immediately picks it up with extreme ease.
Alright. So you do follow comments. Well, that would make things much easier, much faster. Now then, pick the other one, get in the room, and so on and so forth until it's done. Or like until I have to roll something.
Alrighty. So I want you to roll me an athletics roll, even though I don't think you have it.
I don't have it.
Yeah. Go ahead and roll it anyways, though.
Is it 20?
Alright. So, with surprising amount of ease and speed, you manage to clear out this room with the help of Goldas, and transport the goods elsewhere. Nothing uneventful happens, and when you return to the job board, you get paid a total of 10 silver.
Uh-huh. And how much time has passed?
Luckily with the aid of Goldas, only like an hour or so.
Right. So still more than a handful. Well, let's keep it up and take another job. Then, like, maximize the...
Alrighty, so what kind of job are you taking? Same kind?
Yeah, essentially.
Alright, so you get there, and I want you to make me another athletics roll.
Uh-huh. Where it is. That's a 7.
Oof. So this one takes the remainder of your time, but you do clear it out. Goldos powering down shortly after you finish it off, sort of returning to just a simple golden statue.
Mm-hmm. So, as I go back to the notice board, I will actually post something. Well, yeah, this is like a global notice board, and post something and say, to Professor so and so of the Conjuration class, your golden golem is in this specific room. Should you want to retrieve it?
Excellent. So already. Bub,
Yep.
what are you up to, Bub?
Let's see.
Keep in mind the
Alright.
party can head out of the college at any time if they really want to head back to Asterium proper.
Okie dokie. Um. Let's see. I'm going to investigate, see if the kobolds have any mission in particular that they are like trying to make plans for or are interested in doing, like something bigger.
Alrighty. So as you go around looking for it, Bub, it doesn't take very long for you to kind of figure out that where the rest of the kobolds are, and you find that they are there's some of the kobolds are gathered in a sort of a single room, which as you enter it, is just basically there's a bunch of kobolds sitting on the floor in a circle, and they're all just kind of talking to each other. Some of them have some bread, some of them have like some sausage and all the like. They're just eating while relaxing in the room, but they're all discussing something.
So it's gonna be a big surprise for the Blue Dragon, right? Yeah, big surprise. See, there's that one thing that he told us to stay away from in the woods. If we go over in the woods and bring it back, he'll be big impressed. Yeah, he would be really impressed. Oh, but it's really dangerous, right? Didn't he say to stay out of there because we lost 30 kobolds in a week? Yeah, but come on, there's like 40 of us. That's totally gonna work. Right. I think if we go into Asterium and talk to some of the other kobolds over there, they might know about it. Right, because they got hurt by it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So Bub's gonna hobble up and be like, it's not good that it's taking out kobolds. We have to get rid of the menace.
Some of the kobolds look over their shoulders at you, others wave, and the like.
Hey, Bub.
Hey.
One of them holds out a loaf of bread to you.
Sure, I'll take it.
One of the kobolds, the kobold that hands you scoots a little to the left so that you could fit in the circle.
Okay, I'll get into the circle, and chomping on bed, rap. So, I can get going and travel and talk to the other kobolds, yeah.
That's really useful, Bub. We don't really know our way around Asterium, so if we left, we'd get lost.
Yeah, well, I'm well-traveled combat veteran now, so,
We heard Bub is very powerful. Yeah, very powerful.
Yeah, very powerful.
One of the kobolds in the circle speaks up.
Maybe Bub very powerful that he can handle thing in woods.
The other kobolds immediately begin nodding as if that's a very good idea.
Okay, but I'm gonna talk to my friends first. They're also very powerful.
Nice. Well, if you could bring them all down here into our secret little circle, we could talk about it more. Blue Dragon would be very pleased with such thing.
Alright. So I'm gonna excitedly search for Brendan and Remy's characters, which are
Alrighty.
Gildas and...
So luckily, Bub, it doesn't take you very long to find your companions, as they're just moving about the college, and this place is literally where you grew up, so you know all the little quick ways to move about. And you're able to find them both and gather them pretty easily.
Okie dokie. So Bub's like, yeah, So, the blue dragon warned the kobolds about it, but a lot of kobolds went to fight this creature, and they didn't come back. 30 kobolds. And I was thinking, we gotta do something about this.
What's happening?
Bub found basically a bunch of kobolds in a circle who were discussing a creature lives in the woods that killed 30 kobolds.
Okay, thank God, actually something to do. All right, cool. I stand up. Like, this literally saved the session. If I was just still doing the same thing, I was just gonna leave.
I mean, you could have found something else to do.
Whatever. Let's just get on with this.
Yeah, and Bub says, some of the survivor kobolds are in Asterium. We could ask them about it first, or we could try our luck with it.
Information is the most paramount. He stares at the pen.
Yeah, so I'll lead you guys to a bunch of the
angrily.
kobolds who are talking together.
Cool.
Right.
Let's do this.
Alright, so Gildas Talon, Bub leads you all into through some twisting hallways until you reach a room. Gildas, you recognize this room as one of the rooms you cleared out earlier. There's a bunch of kobolds sitting in a circle in the room, shifting a bottle of wine amongst them as they all have bread and sausage.
Hey now. I didn't just clean this room for you to go soil it.
We aren't soiling. We'll clean it up. Yeah, we clean up. We're on break.
Uh-huh. Anyway. We've heard from our good friend Bub here that there's a creature in the woods, correct?
Oh yeah, big creature. Very strong. It killed 30 of us. It resistant, we think.
But anything to it than just how strong it is.
It's very, very strong. Very big.
Right. But I mean, how does it look like?
We haven't seen it. We just heard that Blue Dragon said not to go and look for it anymore or try to deal with it. So we think that if we help clear it out and figure it out and fix it for Blue Dragon, we all get rewards. Yeah! Oh, but kobolds in town know. They've seen it. Yeah, there's a few survivors.
I suppose we should start there then.
Indeed.
One of the kobolds walks over to you and Gildas and Delon, and hands you each a piece of bread.
Bub say you very powerful too. Good luck.
I'll nod in thanks.
But alrighty. So with that, was the party heading off from the college for now?
Please.
Alright. So the party is leaving the college. They get into the woods. Bub, make me a survival or nature roll to traverse the woods.
By the power of nature, I roll 10.
Alright, so Bub cautiously and rather slowly leads you through the woods. But he heads you back to Asterium proper. As you head back into Asterium, you're stopped at the gate, forced to show your paperwork like before, and then led back in. People of Asterium are all wandering about, the same as usual. Where would you like to head now in Asterium?
Yeah, so, is there some way I would know where kobolds would typically congregate in the city?
Bub, you would probably know that the kobolds would try to find the place where they could work, that they could work with despite injuries, that they could keep working hard at. That wouldn't put them in further harm.
Let's see. Injured kobolds need work. They need to go somewhere where they won't get hurt doing the work.
as you say this, Bub, you do recall that there were a few injured kobolds in the document building.
Paperwork, books, working at the library. So let's go to a place that's kind of like that.
All right.
And I'm gonna
Going
spread.
back basically to the trade office. Remember, there was a guy with an eye patch.
That's right.
Yep.
So you all head back to the trade office, waiting in line for a little bit before getting inside proper. And when you arrive, there is the same gnomish woman with the long, with curly mustache and bushy eyebrows, sitting on top of a stack of books.
Welcome. How can I help you?
We're actually looking for injured kobolds.
Injured kobolds? What did they do? They've been hard workers for the most part.
Well, they
Well-
haven't done anything wrong.
Indeed. It's not about what they did, but more about what they saw. We're interested in, rather.
I see. Well,
She looks around and then reaches under her desk, grabs a bell, and rings it a few times. Several kobolds come from in the back of the trade office somewhere, heading to the front counter, before standing in like a single file line. One salutes with his nubby arm. Another one salutes and he's got a peg leg, and the other salutes and he's got a big old eye patch on.
It's quite a symbol. Yeah, so the kobold has the eye patch, or no, this is the,
There are 3 kobolds here. One with like a stump arm, one with a peg leg, and one with an eye patch. And they all assembled in like a single file straight line, kinda, and they're all saluting.
Okay, I'm gonna explain this situation to the kobolds. I actually have to get going in a minute.
Alrighty then.
I'm gonna explain the situation to the kobolds and see if I can get some information from them.
Alright then, so as you explain the situation, Bub, the kobolds all immediately begin catching on, a few of them shivering in fear. The one with the stump arm kind of looks at his arm or like strokes it a little, like,
oh yeah, the thing in the woods. What do you want to know about it, Bub?
Well, what was it? The other kobolds are saying they want to take care of the problem, but you can't take care of a problem if you don't know what the problem is.
they kind of look between each other, and the one with the eye patch speaks up.
Well, if you ever take the skeleton polishing job, Bub?
Yeah, I just did it.
One of those things went on the fritz. Apparently it was out doing, a lumber work or something, and it started fritzing out, and it started, like, thinking everything was lumber. We gathered 30 of the strongest kobolds we could and went to go bring it in. Cause if we brought it in for the wizards, we'd get a big old surprise, lots of reward, get promoted.
And the other one nods, the one with the peg leg nods somberly.
Yeah, get promoted, not demoted.
The other one nod. They all nod somberly and just yeah.
But
Alright.
anyway, we went to go fight it, and it was rough. It was all crystally and shiny, but it was also muddy and dirty from all the time outside, and it wielded a big old axe around and cleaved at us, and we got our weapons, and we would sometimes stab at it, and we would just explode outwards. It was awful.
The other one with the eye patch points to the eye patch.
I think I still have a crystal in here somewhere.
So I'm gonna excitedly explain to Delon and Gildas what the creature looks like and all the stuff I learned about it while cleaning it earlier on.
Well, at least we know what we look at. Well, what we're looking for, and it's made out of crystal. Then it might be easy to spot. On top of that.
Okay, so I got about 10 minutes. I gotta get going.
Yeah.
It's alright.
I mean, let's end it here.
Cool.
Hold on. I got one thing I'm gonna do real quick. So as you leave the Trade Commission building and begin kind of thinking about how you're going to handle this creature, give me one quick second. Alrighty. So, you see as a procession of cloaked figures wearing purple cloaks is outside the Trade Commission, all in a single file line, flanking the entrance on both sides. You can see certain knights in armor as well have surrounded the Trade Commission and any potential places you could slip past. And you can see there is a palanquin at the end of the purple-robed wizards. As you all step out, you see the palanquin is pulled aside by two beautiful looking drow, one on either side, and a figure steps out wearing a crown and holding a rather large sword in one hand. He has multiple rings on his gloved fingers, and he is walking with purpose towards you all. He looks as so.
He's Linus himself.
As you all look around, everyone else is looking either away, bowing their head in reverence, or some are looking in awe and astonishment, kind of thing. But everybody acknowledges his presence. As he approaches you all, he gives a very curt nod, and immediately makes eye contact with you, Delon. I have heard that you have decided you have claimed audience with me.
Ah, yes, my lord, I did.
My observers have noticed you moving about from here, the city, and the college, and then back to the city. It would ill behoove me to let a single dragonborn within my streets without first becoming acquainted with them. I have arranged palanquins for you as well. This is not a request.
At a game, what's that?
Essentially something that is held up by figures and you are carried someplace.
Oh. So I must be carried now?
Well, basically, you know the thing that, Azula, Zuko, and the Fire Lord were carried in by servants?
Yeah.
It's like that. He's saying that it's not a request. You are traveling with me somewhere else.
Cool. Sounds
and
good.
you're traveling in, quote-unquote, in style.
Fair enough, sure.
He looks to Bub and Gildos as well. Your servants are free to accompany you.
This is my good friend Gildas. He is not a servant. As for Bub here, he is the druid for the Blue Dragon.
Having a cleric and a kobold druid as servants means a little to me. Servants are servants, and they follow you around.
Hmm, I see. Then if he would like to have a meeting with me, I'd be honored.
Excellent. He gestures to a palisade to his left, as purple-robed figures part to reveal it to you, and he gestures for you to head inside as he begins heading to his own.
Alrighty then.
Well, I'd follow, but honestly, I don't want to have to deal with
Hmm.
high society at the moment, and I do have some business to attend to in another part of the city, so let's deal with the crystal skeleton tomorrow, I think.
Looks like it. I don't. It would be a dishonor to refuse an order from the Lord, and even if I was allowed to, it seems in this circumstance, the refusal is not permitted.
Indeed. Well, I'd say watch your tongue around him, but given your stature and all, I wouldn't worry about that.
Take care as well.
Right. See you tomorrow then.
Tomorrow then.
Alrighty. And with that, Delon, you are allowed entrance into the palisade, and you are surprising ease and gentleness lifted up into the air into the covered, essentially, wagon of sorts, and you begin being carried off, flanked on all sides by knights in purple cloaked wizards. And with Delon heading off with the Lord of Asterium, I will leave it up to the player who plays Bub whether he tags along with that or not. Gildos heading off to do Gildos things, and Baskerville deeply encroached in research. We will wrap up here. Thank you all for tuning in. It's a bit of a slower session today, but it's alright. Getting familiar with the setting, doing some research, trying to get the passive gains. Alrighty. Have a good one. Bye-bye.